Let's get real. Welcome to TBC Today. This podcast features friends in and around the Triad Baptist Church community. Hear encouraging real-life stories from our weekly guests and inspiring insights from our host, Pastor Rob. To learn more about Triad Baptist Church in Kernersville, North Carolina, visit us online at tbcnow.org.
Right there, okay.
Well, it is summertime. How many of you guys are excited about that?
Yeah,
I'm excited
really
about that. So it's June, and welcome to another episode of TBC Today, our podcast. We're going to have a great time today with Ashlee Jones. Now, Ashlee grew up at Triad Baptist, right?
Yep,
From
I
the
did.
time you were a little kid?
Yeah, pretty much.
She grew up here. She was active in our student ministry. I remember watching you in our youth group and being very involved. And you sing with our Triad worship band.
I do.
What's that like?
I love singing with the Triad worship band. I love getting up in the morning at 7:30 to be here. I'm just kidding.
Sunday mornings, yeah.
I'm just kidding. No, but I love singing with that group and just having that connection of leading the congregation every Sunday. I love
you're
that.
A great singer. You did a great job. We love our Triad worship band here. So if you don't have a home church, visit us on Sunday morning and check them out. And then right now, currently, you are an information tech major.
I am.
From where?
I'm at Forsyth Tech.
Forsyth Tech, okay. And you're thinking of transferring to somewhere different later?
Yeah, I've been thinking about UNCG, UNC Charlotte, and just kind of wagering my options, just seeing what fits best and where I could fit.
Awesome. What are you going to do?
Well, I'd like to manage networks and just like program computers and just like send stuff back and forth to different routers and stuff like that. I found that stuff really cool.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Well, of course, we've got our host, Pastor Rob, here today, and he's going to lead the conversation with Ashlee this morning. So, Pastor Rob, let's get real.
All right. Hey, Ashlee, thanks for coming in today. I really appreciate it. One thing, I've known you, I knew you since you were a little kid singing at our church and stuff like that, but I think I've gotten to know you more recently. But tell us a little bit about how you grew up and some of the things that are key in your life.
Well, I grew up in a loving Christian home, and I've always been at Triad, like Jeremy said. I've always been involved with the youth group and with Mr. Tim's. I was actually saved, I think it was 5th grade at Mr. Tim's Christian retreat camp, and I was baptized about, actually the next time that we came home, that time. I don't know when that was, but that's when I was baptized. And I love going to church. I love seeing all my friends.
Was that at the beach or was that at the mountains?
The beach.
The beach.
That's when he still went to the
beach. And who
led
you to the Lord? Do you remember?
Yes, because we have the same name. It's Ashlee, I forgot, Compton. Ashlee Compton.
Ashlee Compton, okay.
Yeah, she was a leader then. That's who led me to the Lord.
Oh, good.
Yeah. She was my small group leader at the camp. But yeah, I love seeing people at church and connecting with people and just, and singing. Yeah, that too.
Okay, where I really got to know you more was probably when your dad got sick. He was diagnosed with cancer. Tell us a little bit about that. That was probably that's maybe 5-6 years ago or so. Okay, tell us a little bit about that.
Well, so Dad got diagnosed back in February of 2016 with brain cancer. He was just in the car one day with Mom, and he had a stroke. And she just rushed him to the hospital, and he was in brain surgery the next week, and just trying to remove this mass on his brain. And we didn't really know, he had never had anything really wrong with him before, but it just began a whole big trial that God was sending my family. And while I was in high school and Justin was in high school as well, we just continued to go about our days and just continue to pray for Dad and just be there for him and help him get through each day with chemo and radiation and just all the things that he was going through. And I mean, it's not easy being a 16-year-old with a dad that has brain cancer. It's not normal, and it was not traumatizing, but it was just something that everybody looked at you differently. It was like, oh, that girl, her dad's sick, or whatever it may be. Yeah. Or whenever my dad passed away, oh, her dad passed away. So it was kind of like you're looked at differently. You're not looked at, hey, that's Ashlee Jones, she sings in praise band. Oh, yeah, but did you hear her dad passed away? So it's just kind of like you get a whole nother, thing on you, oh, now she's this girl. She's not who she used to be. And so it just kind of changed my whole family. We were all looked at differently, and we were just like, yeah, we feel bad for them. But it was just I don't know.
Like you almost were not fitting in anymore? Like you were almost outside
in high school. when I was in high school, whenever we came back, because he passed away in December, and I had like this time for New Year's Eve and Christmas, and I came back.
Let me just stop you for a sec so people get a context. Now, Steve was very involved in our church. I knew your dad really well. Matter of fact, he served and ran our whole Upward program. He got the flag football going and really developed it, and then just really made it into what it is today. And so he was key in that way. Another thing is he served as a deacon here at the church, and I had him doing a lot of projects for me, oversighting a lot of things. And as a result of that, he and I grew very close. Yeah. And we'd go out to lunch all the time. We'd talk all the time. And then he was very involved in Awana too. I don't, outside of that, I just think of those two things. But he also was heavy in the Awana side and helping Mr. Tim and things like that.
We actually started the TBCA Booster Club. Yeah. So he formed
I forgot about that
booster club
in the Christian
for
school.
our academy.
He took that on. So he was like this guy who just did so many things at this church, and it was a shock to me. Like, you've no history of that, do you, in your family?
No, not well, my grandma, but it's not hereditary. She had cancer, but it was not hereditary or anything like that.
Yeah.
But yeah, he was very involved, and I think that's why it was such a big thing for the Triad community. It just because he did do Upward, he did do concessions, and he was involved with about everything that Triad was. And so it just kind of took like a big toll on our family just because we didn't know how to do what he was doing. And, he just did it so well that I didn't feel like any of us could really live up to that. And
y'all were used to being right there with him.
Mm-hmm.
You did everything. You guys did everything with him.
Right next to it,
just did it all together.
You the whole day for the football. You guys were out there at the field having to do whatever you had to do.
Yeah, exactly.
And it's incredible to think about. And so I just wanted that context to be known because that's how really after you started going through that, that's how I got to know your mom more and you more and Justin, just because there was this sense of, man, it was like total trauma and total just upheaval of your life. So like you even said, you described it like here, I'm just Ashlee who sings and goes to high school, but now I'm the girl whose dad's really sick, and it just changed almost an identity in you. Yeah. What was that like?
Well, just in high school, because not many people knew my dad, but not as well as people know him here. But people would come up to me and they'd say stuff like before my track races. My dad was always there for my track races, and they would say stuff like, I wish your dad was here to watch you. Well, yeah, I do too. Yeah, thank you. I'm just kidding. But I would just be like, yeah, I do too. Or like I've had many milestones that I've had to go through, such as graduating. Like you don't just graduate every year. So it's something, he wasn't there for that. And he wasn't there to walk me on my senior night down the track, just like to introduce me. And so those are just different things that like, oh, where's her dad at? And then people would start talking. So it was always, I felt something that people would talk about. And I don't think much now. Most people really don't talk about it or remember it, I don't feel like. But it was something really big in high school, especially because I was a senior and I was graduating. And it was just really hard to get through.
So you tried to keep as much of a normal life as you could, even though in reality, you were like bombarded by all these different thoughts and feelings, and people were it was almost weird to you. Yeah. Like, here I am in a track meet. Let's just focus on the track meet. Don't say that to me because, it's
just going to make me upset.
It's just going to upset me. Yeah. I want to try to do my best. And to now think about losing my dad. Sorry for my throat. I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's the pollen or what, but
no, I was very active. I was actually an athletic trainer for the football team and the baseball team. So I was on the field with them, traveling with them, and just doing cross country and tracks. I was always busy. I was always doing something to like distract me kind of. And so that helped me get through my senior year. I feel like that was me being distracted and doing stuff and being active with friends. That's what helped me get through my senior year and just to graduate and get through the rest of it.
So how long? How long was he sick with that before he passed away?
He was sick with that for almost 2 years.
2 years.
2 years.
And the last year was when you were in your senior year.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. So I started senior year with him, and then I did not finish it with him.
And there was something inside of me, and I know it was in Steve. It was like, I'm going to whip this, and I'm going to get through this. He did everything, and he kept digressing, and that was what was so discouraging to me or to him, is that I'm doing everything I know to fight this, and it just seemed like he couldn't get a break.
Yeah, and he was cancer free in from April to June. He was cancer free, and then it came back and hit even harder in July, and it just progressively got worse as time went on until December. And the Lord called him home. And so it just, it was a lot. You grow up after you see all that kind of stuff, and you don't, like I said, I was 16, 17. That's not something you go through normally when you're 16, 17. So I just feel like I've really matured and I've grown and I've seen how life really is just within those 5 years of my dad being sick and passing away. So I feel like I've really grown up.
So like when you feel like you've really grown up, can you give me an example of something that you look at a little differently now that you may not would have looked at it differently today if you hadn't gone through that?
Well, for example, I've never really had like people in my family be really sick. And so I never thought anybody would ever have cancer in my life. So I never really prayed like, oh Lord, please don't let anybody in my house be sick. Like help us to all stay healthy. I never prayed for that before. And because I've never had to like experience that. But when my dad began to get sick, I was praying for everybody that was sick. If you had a cut on your finger, I was praying for it. Like I was always praying for like the littlest things, that they would be healed and that you would heal them, like God would heal them and that they would be okay. And that's something that I've changed and I'm matured on, and I always pray for healing. And I continue to pray for my healing, just like my mental healing and stuff like that.
So even now, like your mental healing, do you feel like that still is a battle within you as you go through all this?
There are days where I have harder days than others. And there are certain days that I just don't want to be around anybody. It's just like I want to be with my dad. I want to see my dad. I want to be around him. And we actually have a place down the street where he actually is. And like, that's kind of where I go if I want to be with dad. So it's just like a relieving thing that I can go and talk to him if I want to talk to him. But if I don't, then I don't have to, so I just...
Yeah. So I feel like just from hearing your story, but also from knowing you personally, that your faith is really, really strong.
Yes.
And I lost my dad too. It's been about 11 years. But what do you say to people, or how do you encourage people now? How has God used this circumstance in your life to help you encourage others who might be going through the same thing you are?
Well, I did go through a rough patch where I remained faithful, but I was struggling in my faith. And I was just like, why would God take somebody that did this for the church and was so godly and just did all these things? Why would he take him home so early? Like, I don't understand. And I just come to realize that my dad did everything that God needed him to do. And he witnessed to as many people as he could, and he did all these things. Then God was like, you have done good, my child. You can come home. And so that is what gets me through it, because I know my dad's probably in the biggest mansion up there. And so I continue to live like my dad lived, and that he would be proud of me. And so it's hard some days, more than others, but I continue to pray and I continue to ask God for healing and comfort through my hard days, and just he continues to do it for me.
What do you do now to kind of keep his name alive, like in your heart? Or is there something you still do now? Do you have certain things you try to do that, I know you said you go down there and talk to him and stuff, but is there some things that you try to do in community or in groups that, with people?
Well, there are people that I've come to meet I got a new job recently, and there's somebody there that has actually lost his dad from, I can't remember what kind of cancer, but he lost his dad about 2 years ago. He's not a Christian. And I've just continued to witness to him and shown him how God has helped me and healed me and comforts me in this time of heartache while I grieve and get over the loss of my dad. And he is like, he's been listening to some of the sermons online. He doesn't come to church, but he's been listening to some of the sermons online and telling me that he's enjoying, and he feels he's been praying more and just like coming to know God more. And God is helping him get through this.
Yeah.
Even though it's been 2 years, he feels like he still is not healed. He knows that God's helping him heal now.
Wow. That's good.
Yeah.
And in a way, I think one thing I've noticed about you, just the years I've known you, is just it's forced you to grow up in a way that you have to wrestle with some of the life's questions that you never should have had to wrestle with. And I think that's part of what I see in you, a maturity to really work through this. Sometimes I'm good at it. Sometimes I'm terrible at it, but I've got to keep pushing through. I mostly can hear your dad in the background. Keep going, Ashlee. I can hear your dad saying that to you. I mean, do you ever feel that sometimes?
I feel that when I sing.
Do you really?
Wow.
Yeah. When I'm on stage, I feel that. There's like a certain section in the crowd that they used to sit at, my mom and dad, and that's like what I look at.
Really?
Yeah.
Is that where you feel most connected with your dad when you're singing? That's awesome.
That's incredible.
Yeah. You know, like they say, like God can, like they say God opens windows. Well, I don't think he like can see me, but I think he can hear me.
Mm-hmm.
So, and Steve Woodall tells me that all the time. Steve Woodall lets me know. He's like, he heard it this morning.
That's
I'm
good.
like, thank you, Steve.
That's great. That's great.
So that's really the time that you feel most connected to your dad.
Yeah.
Is when you're singing.
He loved hearing me sing. He loved watching me sing. So that's when I feel most connected to him.
That is so cool. I never even thought about that. So it's just something that's precious to you, just the singing of your life.
Yeah.
And how do I hold on to that? If I could just move on a little, I know like your mom just recently got married.
Yeah.
And as she's moved on with that, that's been kind of hard for you. Is that something you could tell us about? Like you don't want to move on in your life. I could, just that's my impression.
Yeah, it's like I understand that people move on. And there are just different things that people move on from quicker than others. And I don't think I'll ever get over the fact that I don't have a dad anymore and that he's not here. But I don't want my mom to just sit at home when she's 60-something and just watching TV. I would much rather her be living life, traveling, doing what she wants. And I'm thankful that God has found her, or that has given her somebody that she enjoys doing those things with. And although it's not my dad, it's somebody that she enjoys spending time with, and it's somebody that she has fun with, and that's all that matters. I would not want to be alone. I don't want her to be alone, and so it makes me happy knowing that she's happy and that she's doing okay, and that she's not going to be alone by herself.
So it's still got to be tough having.
It is. It's not. It's
an adjustment.
Yes,
yeah.
It's a very big adjustment because it's not something like your parents get married, then they have kids. You don't ever expect your parents to get remarried because it's like, oh, that's my parents, And so just knowing that my mom did just get remarried, it was very awkward for me just knowing that it's not my dad. It's not somebody that I grew up with my whole life. And there's nothing wrong with who it was. I mean, if it was anybody else, I'd still feel the same way. It's just that it's different, and it's not something I ever thought I'd have to go through. Mm-hmm. But for some reason, God has taken me through this, and in some way he is being glorified.
So in a lot of ways, it's like, you get hit with the loss of your father. That's like just, a blow. But now your mom moves on. That's like another little blow too. Like, man, it just keeps going, just this sense of.
It's like, when do I get a break?
Yeah, when do I get a break? And that's what I was thinking. I mean, do you feel that way sometimes? Like, when is there going to be this place in my life where I can just feel like everything's okay?
Yeah, well, I've had a lot of stuff go on just this past year, just through just other situations and other things that have been happening, and I think it's because God saw me veering away, and God saw me taking another path, and he said, no, my child, I want you to come back to me. And so he has taken certain things out of my life that I would have never taken out of my life. But I'm thankful that God did, because if he didn't, I feel like I'd still be going in the wrong direction. And so with these things that are being taken out, he's bringing new in, such as new friends and new opportunities, and he's showing me how I can glorify him and how I can learn more and be more faithful.
I like the fact about you pushing on, there's a part of you that just, I don't want to push on, but there's a part of you that's going to push on. And I feel like, when you lose your father, and then like you went through a breakup, with someone that you had known for a long time. And so that's like another crutch taken out. And I think a girl probably likes to lean on a guy sometimes, and yet that was taken away. Your mom's moved on with that marriage. So I feel like in a lot of ways, a lot of crutches have just been pulled out from under you.
All my bridges have been broken, and my only bridge left is to God. And so that's the bridge that I want to take, and that I'm not looking back anymore on any of my past friendships, relationships. I'm focusing on God. He took those people out for a reason. I'm thankful that he did. And I know that I'm going to be better off with whatever he has in store for me in the future.
Yeah. And, to be 20 and have to go through that, I'm thinking to myself, when you're 40, you probably can do a whole lot better going through that. But when you have all those crutches taken out, and the people you're counting on to be there, and then they're not there anymore, it really does force you to grow up. But it also forces you to say, okay, God, I can't do anything about this. I feel like my life is so out of control, but at the same time, I'm going to try to find you in this.
Yeah.
That's the thing I sense in you. You're still going to try to find God and honor God and figure out what in the world he's doing with you. And you want to make your life count to honor your dad and honor your life and all those things to move forward.
Yeah.
That's where I'm proud of you.
Yeah.
I'm proud of you for that.
Thank you.
that spirit in you, because I just know sometimes some of those things could have just, really laid you low.
Yeah.
And they did bug you, but at the
They
same
did.
time, you still found something and you said to move forward with it and to find God in it. I love that. I love that about you. So
And I know you were one of our leaders for D Now.
I was.
This year.
I was.
And so D Now is discipleship now for our student ministry. Did that really encourage you, being able to encourage that many girls?
I love working with the youth group, and I took some time away just because of school, but I'm so happy I got to be a part of D Now, because they just, whenever you're in high school and middle school, you think you know it all. You don't. I know that now. You don't know anything. But knowing that I can be a leader and I can teach these girls and say, hey, like God will move there, and God will show you like what you need. He will help you. And just being able to be like an encouragement and show them, hey, I was one of you. Like I used to be you, and I know what it's like. And just so they have that encouragement and those leaders that can show them and be strong for them.
Yeah, and the girls, they love her. I mean, they really look up to her, and they love hanging out with her.
I love hanging out with
them.
them.
Yeah, and one
Ashlee.
thing I always like to say, I've said it from the pulpit many times, is out of your misery comes your ministry.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like in a strange way, you're being pushed beyond your years to say, okay, God, I want to use this. I want to make this count somehow. I want to see some kind of purpose in it all. Yeah. And I feel like you're seeking for that.
Yeah.
So
I am. I look forward to the day that all my questions become answered, and I'm ready for that day. I don't know when it is, but I'm ready for it.
Okay. Well, is there anything you'd want to tell us about all that experience going through that with your father, or anything you want to tell us about after, anything that we didn't cover, because I want to make sure you have a chance to talk about that, because I feel like that's more important, because I got other questions, but I just thought if you have something you wanted to really tell us about your dad or anything really.
Yeah. So just growing up with my dad and my family, my dad was always involved. So it always pushed me to be more involved with like youth group, whatever it is. I wanted to do it because I was like, oh, dad did that. I want to do it. So I always was right there behind him, always doing whatever he was doing, just to be involved and be around and just to be there. And I think that's one of the reasons that I just wish that he was still here, just so people could still see that he's still doing the deacons, he's still doing Awana, he's still doing upward flag football. Pretty sure he'd still be doing it if he was here. I'm pretty sure, because he loved it that much. But yeah, I just love talking about my dad and memories that he has.
What's your favorite memory with your dad?
I'd have to say upward flag football. We'd get up around 6:30 every morning, get all the pylons in the truck and get all the flags and everything ready. And we'd head down there, and I'd put all the stuff out, and he'd start the sound booth, and we'd be playing Good Morning by Mandisa. It was every Saturday morning, all of us singing it. And I just loved those mornings just before everybody came. It was so calm, and I just hung out with Dad, and Mom and Justin were there too, of course. But I just loved just being there. He loved doing that. I loved watching him do that, because it was just so much fun to like be out there. But I'd have to say the night games. Y'all ever been to the night games?
Yes, I have.
Those are my favorites.
Yeah.
Him setting up all the lights out there for the kids. It wasn't even for him. It was for the kids. And maybe it was for him. I don't know.
He got so excited about it, didn't he?
He would get
it was like
so
Monday
excited.
Night Football or something, and he was so
loved
into it.
He's like, we're all playing under the lights. And I'm like, oh yeah, Dad, you go get it. He loved that. That's probably one of my favorite memories.
That is so cool.
What's a great life lesson you learned from him?
Let's see. He was always a witness. Like he always was sharing the gospel. He was handing out pamphlets at Walmart for upward flag football. Mm-hmm. So I just feel like always try to reach somebody. Mm-hmm. Always try to be a witness. Like whatever you do, be a witness, and just share the love of God. Let them see God through you. And I think that's what he lived by, and that's what I like to live by.
Good. Is there anything else you want to mention? Anything else on your heart? Because I got other questions too, but I just want to make sure there's nothing else that you wanted to say about your dad or wanted to say about just going through all this.
I don't have anything. Maybe with your questions, maybe I'll think of something.
Okay.
I don't have anything yet.
Give her some questions.
Okay. Tell me about, as you've gone through this, What about ministry, and what encouragement can you give to kids who go through this?
Like through losing a parent?
Yes.
I can say that, I've only been going through it for 3.5 years, so I'm not experienced with it. But I've met a couple people that have lost their parents after I lost my dad, and I just talk to them and I reach out to them and I just say, hey, I'm praying for you. I know what you're going through. Like, I know like how you're feeling a bunch of hate towards God right now. I know exactly how I felt. I just felt like, why does God hate me? Why does God hate my family? And I just had to realize that God did this for his glory. God did this for a purpose that I will not see until later on in life. Now, I don't understand why or what that purpose is, but I know that all I can do is continue to live and continue to grow in my faith and honor him. And one day I will get to that purpose and I will understand why God did this and what was to come out of it.
Okay. So like if I was going to go up to somebody who lost their parent, or somebody else was like a kid was to go up to another kid, say 15, 16, 17, what's a dumb thing to say then? What would
How
be
are you doing?
Yeah. How are you doing?
Yeah.
That's a dumb thing to say.
That is one of the one questions I cannot
That's like
stand.
you get that 100 times, don't you?
Yes. I cannot. How are you?
And that's just such a natural thing to say.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's like, hey, how are you doing? It's like, what do you mean? Like,
how do you think I'm doing?
Yeah, what do you think? Yeah. Exactly. That's probably one of the one questions I cannot stand.
Yeah.
I do not like that question.
Like everybody wants to act like they're interested in you, and you're like, I'm tired of hearing that.
Yes.
What would be maybe a good thing to say to you coming up to you? Let's say I'm walking past you and I just see and I know your dad died and I don't want to say, how are you doing? What might I do?
You can say something like, hey, what you got going on this week? Hey, are you singing anytime soon? Anything like that.
So talk about you and not about your dad.
Don't talk about my dad.
And the present.
If we want, like, I feel like with people that have had like parents pass away, we will bring it up. Like, we don't want you to bring it up. We want to bring it up. So like, if I feel comfortable enough with you, I'll bring up my dad. But like some people just like want to talk about it and I don't want to talk about it. So then it's just like awkward because I'm like, I'm not going to talk about it.
That's interesting. That's really a good thought to be cognizant or just aware of when you talk to people who've lost someone. Mm-hmm. If they don't really want to talk about it with you, then you're going to put them in an awkward place or almost an irritable place. Like, listen, I'm not really going to get into this right now. I just finished singing or I just finished doing this or I just, got out of the car and I want to go in the church or whatever,
Exactly.
So, really, it's better to just talk about your life in the present, talk about what you're doing now, almost be normal. And then if I feel comfortable, I'll bring it up with you and then we could talk about it more.
Exactly. That's
good.
That's what I just don't even ask people how they're doing anymore. I'm just like, what you got going on this week?
Yeah.
Just
because you're so aware of that.
Yeah.
Like you don't want to say, well, you're still going through that with whatever. And
also, you don't know how people are doing. Like, you don't know maybe somebody's like animal just passed away that morning. And you're like, hey, how are you doing? And it's like, then you get into a whole spill about what happened this morning. It's like, what are you up to this week? And then boom, that's it.
Okay, good.
But yeah, that's just what I do.
Good. All right. You got anything on your heart? Anything?
No, I think that's great.
I think it's good advice.
I think it's very encouraging. And I relate with what you're saying. It is hard. I think about my dad every single day. Yeah. You probably do. I've heard some people say, oh, after a year or two, you'll forget. You won't think about it anymore. And it's been over a decade, and I still do. And so you probably will as well. But I remember those great things, those great memories and his legacy. And your dad certainly had a great legacy too. And so that's what, keep that in your heart and remember that as you go because he's right there with you.
Exactly. I'll continue to share it too.
Yeah. That's good. Well, thank you so much for coming by today, Ashlee, and sharing with us. Is there anything you want to say in closing, or you're good?
No.
I feel like we covered the...
I think we're good. Okay,
good.
This was a lot of fun.
It
was fun.
I really like hearing her perspective and being younger. I know it's a little harder to do that, to come in here and talk with two guys that are older. But the truth is, it was just fun to just get to know your heart a little bit and just to say how proud we are of you. And I miss your dad, too. And so it's just... he's just a special man to me. And really good friendship with him. And so I don't know what you're going to do with your life and how you're going to live it out and what God's going to accomplish with you, but I just see great things for you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Ashlee's our youngest guest, but such an encouraging guest, right?
Yeah.
So encouraging and great energy. So, check us out online and watch our services, but listen to our worship music and hear Ashlee sing with the band. It's great. And so we're on live Sunday mornings. We have 2 services, and you can find out more about that at tbcnow.org. We hope you have a great week.
Thanks for joining us this week on TBC Today. We want to connect with you, so make sure to visit our website, tbcnow.org, and subscribe, rate, and review the show in iTunes, Spotify, or Amazon Music. Don't forget to share this episode with a friend, and be on the lookout for our next conversation.